time for Dodger Baseball. Live from Dodger Stadium, Sportsnet LA presents the Dodgers as they take on the Colorado Rockies. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant good evening to you, wherever you may be. Final game of the homestand and the final game of the three-game series with the Rockies. The Dodgers find themselves right now 3 games behind San Francisco. They're playing the Red Sox again tonight, and a tough matchup up there. David Price for the Boston Red Sox against Madison Bumgarner, each pitcher with a record of 7-2. Dodgers, meanwhile, are playing pretty well. They've won 11 of the last 16, and pitching is the reason. The staff has an earned run average of 2.5. The bullpen has an earned run average of 1.5. And for the Dodgers, they've had good success against Colorado at home. They are 14-4 of the recent 18 played here. As far as the Rockies are concerned, they started to go south on May the 18th, and they proceeded to lose 14 of 20. The pitching tonight, left-hander Chris Russin on the mound for the Rockies. The left-hander is 1-4, no record against the Dodgers, 1-1 lifetime. And by the way, the Dodger record against left-hand pitching, 6-7. On the mound for the Dodgers would be Kenta Maeda with a record of 5-3. He beat the Rockies back in April and pitched a gem of a game, went 6 1/3, allowed only 1 walk, and struck out 8. And Friday night, it'll be Clayton Kershaw, 8-1, Johnny Cueto, 9-1. We'll get to the ball game and a whole lot more coming up right after this. And a fastball is whacked to left, and this one is gone. He has done it again. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Wednesday evening to you. Welcome to Dodger Stadium, and what a great way to begin the evening. Mr. and Mrs. Don Newcomb, Karen and Don down behind home plate. And for Don Newcomb, celebrating his 90th birthday. What kind of a player was he? Well, to give you one footnote, in 1955, Don Newcomb for the Dodgers helped them win their only World's Championship. He had 20 victories and 5 losses. He also hit 7 home runs. He lost 1. He should have had 8. He drove in 23 runs, and believe it or not, he hit .359 that year. At Ebbets Field, they had a screen on top of the right field wall, and Newcomb hit a home run over the screen. The umpires thought that it went through the screen, and so he got a double instead of the home run that he should have gotten. So really, that year he had 8 home runs and 23 RBIs. He is breaking the seal on tonight's game. Joining him is his wife Karen, and they will start with the familiar words, "It's time for Dodger baseball." And sure it is. So let's take a look at the Rockies lineup as written by Walt Weiss. And here's the way those names start. It'll be Charlie Blackmon in center field, DJ LeMahieu at second base, and Carlos Gonzalez in right. Nolan Arenado hits cleanup at third. Gerardo Parra is in left field. Nick Hundley behind the plate. Daniel Descalso, who had that pinch hit home run last night, at first. Christian Adams at short, and Chris Russian the pitcher. On the mound for the Dodgers, Kenta Maeda with a record of 5-3, allowed just 1 run, going 6 1/3 against the Rockies in Colorado. Walked 1 and struck out 8. So we'll see about Maeda now, and he'll be tested immediately by Charlie Blackmon. Though Blackmon, left-hand hitter, checking in. He has never faced Maeda before, takes a strike, and we're underway. So Blackmon, a good all-around player, a lot of speed. He had a 32-game on-base streak snapped last night, hitting .299. Maeda comes right back, and it's fouled off, and the count 0-2. Beautiful evening, 68 degrees as we're ready to start the game. Final game of the homestand. No breeze, just very calm. Sunshine washing across the bleachers in right field and in the upper decks in right and couple of levels there. Maeda with the 0-2 pitch on the way. Low, blocked nicely by A.J. Ellis. Kenta Maeda, they say, is now going to try and rely a lot more on his fastball that he had done in the past. So we expect to see that tonight. Rick Honeycutt wants him to be, I guess, a little more aggressive with the fastball. Here's the 1-2 pitch to Charlie Blackmon, high and away, and the count 2-2. Charlie Blackmon, should he get on base, is always a threat to run. He has stolen 4 bases. He also has 6 home runs. 2-2 pitch on the way to Charlie, and the left-hand hitter swings and whacks it foul. Still 2 balls and 2 strikes. Charlie had reached base safely in 32 straight games until last night. One reason last night he was not in the starting lineup. Finished up and struck out in the 9th inning. Charlie holds up on strike 3, and down he goes, disagreeing with Adam Hamari for a moment. So the big pitch, Kenta Maeda with 2 down gets his leadoff man. Here are the Dodgers defensively: Gonzalez and Barnes, Hernandez and Turner, Kendrick, Thompson and Van Slyke, Ellis handling Maeda. So 1 away, DJ LeMahieu, a very good ball player. We mentioned last night he's as tall a second baseman as there is. He is 6'4". And the first pitch of the right-hand hitter in for a strike, and the count 0-1. You have to go back to George High Pockets Kelly, 1925, to find a second baseman as tall as DJ. No taller ever played the position. Strike 1 pitch, hit foul off to the right into the lower deck, and the count 0-2. LeMahieu 2 for 4 last night. He had a double, stole a base. He had an 11-game hitting streak, and it was snapped just the other day before coming here. He had reached base 17 straight. Strike 2 pitch is fouled away, and Maeda throwing at 90 and jammed him a bit. No balls and 2 strikes. Maeda is about 6 feet tall, weighs somewhere around 155 to 160. Kenta staring in from Senbokogun in Osaka, and the strike 2 pitch is high. 1-2 the count to DJ LeMahieu. The end of May against Cincinnati, he had a career high 4 hits in a game. He also hit home runs in consecutive games in Arizona, so he can play. 1-2 pitch is down and away. Kenta Maeda in quest of his 6th win. LeMahieu backs out of the box for a moment. Now they hook up. 2 balls and 2 strikes. The pitch to LeMahieu is swung on and fouled off to the right at a play. David John LeMahieu prefers to be called by the initials. He went to LSU, so with a name like LeMahieu, you'd assume he'd have a little French in him. But actually, he was born in Visalia and lives in Michigan. Here's the 2-2 pitch on the way, and that's taken just off the plate. So 3-2 the count. Maeda had them all set up for that pitch and just missed. LeMahieu, 28 years old. Originally a 2nd-round pick by the Cubs. So Maeda trying to put him away. On deck, Carlos Gonzalez. 3-2 pitch. Here she comes. Fastball swung on and missed. Maeda comes in at 92 to strike him out. So 2 strikeouts, Blackman and LeMahieu. Remember last night, 15 Rockies struck out. So it's a ball club that can kill you with home runs, and then they injure themselves with the strikeouts. And talking about strikeouts, here's Carlos Gonzalez. What a night he had. He had 1 hit, but he struck out 4 times, including a couple of times against the rookie last night, Julio Urias. First pitch swung on and missed. The count 0-1. They're starting up north. Red Sox at the Giants. David Price 7-2. Madison Bumgarner 7-2, and the ball game is underway. Now the strike 1 pitch on the way. Maeda delivers, slips a fastball in there, and that's foul back. So Kenta throwing strikes, nailed Blackman. Then he got LeMahieu, and he's right out in front of Gonzalez. Of course, with Carlos, he's hitting .302. 13 home runs, 30 runs batted in, and the strike 2 pitch on the way is waved at and missed. How about that? Gonzalez has struck out 5 times in 6 at-bats. Meanwhile, Maeda strikes out the side. First he got Blackman looking, then LeMahieu went down swinging, and finally Carlos goes down, and at the end of half an inning, no score. score as Kenta Maeda strikes out the side. Now here comes the Dodger lineup, led off by Kike Hernandez at shortstop. Justin Turner at third, Adrian Gonzalez at first, Trace Thompson in center, Scott Van Slyke in right, Howie Kendrick in left, A.J. Ellis behind the plate, Austin Barnes at second, Kenta Maeda on the mound. On the mound for the Colorado Rockies, Christian Patrick Russin, out of Detroit, Michigan, lives in Canton and went to school at the University of Kentucky, and his first pitch outside, ball one. Russin, who came up in 2009, and Hernandez playing shortstop, giving Corey Seager a rest, pitched low and inside, 2 balls and no strikes. Russin is 6'2", 195, left-handed all the way. The next pitch is a chopper into the hole, through into left field for a base hit. So Kike opens up with a single, and the Dodgers are on their way. Let's take a look at the Rockies defensively. They shape up this way. Descalso at first, LeMahieu at second, Adams at short, Arenado at third, Parra in left, Blackman in center, Carlos Gonzalez in right, and Nick Hundley at the plate. For the Dodgers, resting Chase Utley, also resting Corey Seager, so it's a little bit of a different lineup tonight. And with a left-hander going, the Dodgers have only one left-hand batter in the lineup, and that's Adrian Gonzalez. So there's Chase Utley alongside of Howie Hendrick leaning on the railing, as the Dodgers have a runner at first, nobody out, and Turner checking in. Turner trying to turn things around. The home run last night with 2 men aboard certainly helped him. And the first pitch, a bunt up along third, going foul, and down to get it is Russin. So a nice try by Justin. Tries to drop one, and it just did spin off foul, and the count, no balls and 1 strike. Last night, Turner came up after Utley and Seager had walked and hit a big home run to get the Dodgers off and running. But they wound up needing Trace Thompson's home run in the bottom of the 9th to win it 4-3. Trace stretching in the dugout. He's hitting cleanup tonight behind Adrian Gonzalez. So Turner comes back, looks at Chris Woodward for the moment. You know, the Dodgers, with scoring 3 runs last night, have scored 35 runs in the first inning this year, leading their opponents by 15. Later on, however, the opponents catch them up in the 5th and 6th innings. Throw to first, not in time. Adrian Gonzalez waiting for his turn. No score, bottom of the 1st inning. We're just starting. Russin looks down, getting a sign, a look over at Hernandez. High set up around the chest, and the pitch swung on, a towering fly ball, but playable. Blackman and Gonzalez. Blackman has to backtrack and makes the catch. There's no breeze. There goes Kike tagging up, and he's into second base. Charlie Blackman was somewhat fooled by that fly ball. There's no wind, and he started in, and all of a sudden began to backtrack. Back, and he finally caught it, but that gave Hernandez a chance to tag up, and he was out of position to make a throw. So Kike steals the base on the fly ball to center. 1 out, Kike at second base. And the batter now is Adrian Gonzalez. Adrian Gonzalez, for whatever reason, throws his name into the pot of mystery about this great game. Here's Russin delivering low and away. Nice skidding stop by Nick Hundley. Adrian on the road is hitting .387. I mean, he is tearing them up. At home, .163. So if he gets started here at home as well as what he does on the road, he'll be off and racing. Hitting .279 overall. Russin with a runner at second and 1 out. Dodgers trying to score in the 1st inning. Adrian takes inside. 2 balls and no strikes. Boy, another beautiful evening in the ballpark as we wrap up this stand. Wasn't much. Atlanta and Colorado. Dodgers leave tomorrow. San Francisco and Arizona. Then they'll come back and play Milwaukee and Washington. 2 balls and no strikes. Russin, a high set, looks back at second, looks back again, still looking. Now to the plate. Adrian takes in for a strike, and the count 2-1. Russin, who, as we told you, accepted a baseball scholarship to the University of Kentucky. He is 1 class short of completing his agriculture economics degree. TK away from second base with 1 out. Adrian trying to pick him up. And the 2-1 pitch on the way. Russin's fastball is fouled away at 91 outside part of the plate. So 2-2 the count to Adrian. Don Newcomb was honored before the game on his 90th birthday. And Don Newcomb, Bo Jackson, and Arnold Haino were elected, receiving the highest number of votes during the month of April, for membership in the Baseball Reliquary. They'll be admitted on Sunday, the 17th of July, at the Wright Auditorium in Pasadena. The Shrine of the Eternals. Here's the 2-2 pitch on the way. Off speed, a little roll, a comebacker, picked up by Russin to get him. On the play, Hernandez moves to third. So 2 out. Last night's hero, in fact, he's been a hero quite often for the Dodgers. Trace Thompson coming up. The interesting side note to this series is the fact that Trace Thompson and Nolan Arenado are very close. In fact, Arenado said, "We're like brothers." It began way back as kids on a travel team called the All-Star Dugout Bulldogs. They played together on various scout teams and in multiple showcase events. They were pretty much drafted the same time, one in the 59th round and the other 61st. Thompson, big swing and a miss in the count, 0-1. They are so close, they exchange notes. Nolan right now talking to Kike. So Arenado and Thompson, the buddies who are a good 95 to 100 feet separated here, but very, very close. Strike 1 pitch on the way, swung on and missed. No balls and 2 strikes, the count. Interesting note, when the 2 teams got together in April to start the year, Trace's mom, Julie, and Nolan Arenado's mom, Millie, flew together from Orange County. They sat together watching their boys play, going all the way back to the All-Star Dugout Bulldog days. The next pitch that Trace's shot off the body of Russin. He's going to go to first just in time. I think he was thinking about going after Hernandez, but Nick Hundley hollered no first. So they lose a run, does Thompson, the Newcomb bobblehead, and the kids tonight celebrating a great ball game. No score at the end of an inning. Nolan Arenado will start it off. His buddy Trace Thompson lost an RBI on that hot shot right back to the box that hit Russin's body and prevented it from going through. So Arenado takes a sweeper down and away, ball one, 1-0. For Nolan, he had a walk and a double, but he popped up 3 times, and once with the bases loaded that really crushed his spirits. The 1-0 pitch is fouled away on a straight changeup. 1-1 to Nolan Arenado. As good a player as there is playing this game. Arenado, local boy from Lake Forest. The 1-1 pitch on the way. Nolan swings, fouls it back. He was jammed a little bit on that pitch, and the count 1-2. Arenado, a Gold Glove third baseman, been leading the majors in home runs and RBIs last year and again this year, which brings to mind the name of Mike Schmidt. He's up there in the rarefied air. 1-2 pitch is swung on late and fouled back. Arenado kind of lunging at it at the last moment, though he has to walk all the way back to home plate. Nolan Arenado, not only an all-around fine hitter, but as good a fielding third baseman as there is around. 1-2 pitch on the way, swung on and missed, and down he goes. So that means all Kenta Maeda has done is strike out 4 consecutive batters. He got Blackman, LeMahieu, and Gonzalez in the first inning, and now Arenado here in the second. But again, for the Rockies, they're a ball club that swings from the heels. As far as strikeouts is concerned, they have now struck out 460 times, 15 last night. So Tommy Reynolds talking to Walt Weiss, and here is Gerardo Parra, left-hand hitting left fielder, takes ball one, 1-0. Parra, a good all-around ball player, got a Gold Glove, so you know he can play, has a great arm, and with 18 doubles, tied for second in the league. He also has 5 home runs. Strike 1 pitch in there again at the knees. 1 ball and 1 strike to count. Parra turning, saying something but not much to Adam Homari. Chad Fairchild, Roman DeJesus, and Jim Joyce on the lines. Maeda into his windup. Kenta ready, and his 1-1 off-speed pitch hit in the air to left center. Thompson going back to the track at the wall to make the catch for the out. So that off-speed pitch almost caused some problems, but Thompson runs it down, and we have 2 away. So with 2 out, Nick Hundley, who came running in from the bullpen along with a reliever last night and got himself in the game, hitting over 300 on the road and a good solid 275, make it 276. Nick, right-hand batter, originally with San Diego, and the first pitch from Maeda, fastball for a strike. No balls and 1 strike. Maeda struck out 8 Rockies in April. Ground ball to the hole, a diving, smothering stop, and the throw to first in time. What a nice play by Austin Barnes. Taking a page right out of Chase Utley's book. Diving, smothering, scampering, and then getting his man. And at the end of an inning and a half, no score. Overwhelming, emotional moment here tonight. The military hero of the game is Mr. Bernard Balmer. He is 94 years old, got a tremendous ovation, and actually was fighting tears. He is a man who, among other things, was involved in the invasion of Saipan, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa. Enlisted way back in 1940, and by the summer of 42, he served until the end of 1945. Boy, there is a true hero, and we are so honored to have the opportunity to honor him. Ground ball foul outside of third off the bat of the Dodgers' Scott Van Slyke. Wow, 94. Serving his country so well back in 1942. Iwo Jima. Whoa. Bad ball. Van Slyke chases it and strikes out. So we have one out in the second inning. Remind us, the other night we were giving little tidbits, little notes about World War II. To change the subject completely and talk about baseball on this day, there are a whole bunch of rather interesting things we might duck in once in a while. For instance, in 1920, the Cincinnati Reds center fielder fell asleep. Yeah, he fell asleep during the game while there was a big argument on the infield. They had to send somebody out to wake him up, and the umpire rejected him, threw him out of the game. For what? For sleeping? Well, for delay of game. Kendrick fouls the pitch away off to the right, and a 1-ball, 1-strike count. So Russin, who made a good play on a comebacker by Thompson, prevented the Dodgers from scoring in the first inning. So no score, bottom of the second. It is also the 6th meeting of the year between the two teams. Dodgers have won 3 of 5. They have really given the Rockies a bad time here at Dodger Stadium. The Dodgers have beaten the Rockies 14 of the last 18 games played here. 2-1 to Howie in left field tonight. Here comes Russin. Fastball whacked wide to third. Nice pick by Arenado, and he throws him out. So 2 down in the second inning. Nolan Arenado taking a base hit away from Howie Kendrick. And A.J. Ellis coming up. So the Dodgers tonight resting Utley and Seager, resting Grandal, though Ellis gets a chance to start, and the rest of the boys resting in the dugout, because they won't be resting Friday night. That should be quite a game. Clayton Kershaw 8-1, Johnny Cueto of the Giants 9-1, and Seager and company will be back to work, especially Clayton. 1 ball and no strikes. Russin comes right back with a good sinker, swung on and missed, and the count 1-1. What about Chris Russin, at least in baseball terms? He actually pitches better when his team doesn't score runs. The tougher the game, the tougher he gets. He has been hit hard, however, throughout his career. Misses with a slider, and the count 2-1. He usually gets better the later the game goes on. Now the 2-1 pitch on the way, and that's inside on the corner for a strike, and the count 2 balls and 2 strikes. Interesting thing about Russin, since 2013, he's always been in the top 20 hitters making contact off his pitches. He's in the bottom 20 of swings and misses. The 2-2 pitch on the way, swung on, big chopper to third. Arenado grabs it on the run, fires to first, and that's that. Dodgers go 1-2-3. That's 6 in a row retired by Russin, and at the end of 2, no score. inning, new ball game, off to a great start. Scoreless as we move into the third. And it'll be Daniel Descalso, followed by Chris Adams, and then the pitcher, Chris Russin. Kenta Maeda has retired 6 in a row, retiring 4 of them. Daniel Descalso came off the bench last night and had a pinch hit home run in the 7th inning. That's his first home run of the year. Left-hand batter takes an off-speed pitch, a change low, ball 1. Descalso's from San Carlos. Went to the University of California at Davis. And the 1-0 pitch to Dan, swung on, hit in the air to right center. Thompson coming over. He's right there to pick it off. And just like that, 1 out. Say a reminder, see the Dodgers face former Dodger Dusty Baker's Nationals. That'll be June 22nd. The first 40,000 fans in attendance receive a Dusty Baker bobblehead presented by Security Benefit. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotion. So Adames checking in, the shortstop. Left-hand batter has a look at a strike, and the count 0-1. Adames from the Dominican Republic, 6 foot 185, 25 years old, takes a strike, and so Maeda out in front of him. Christian Pascual Adames, originally signed by the Rockies, got up briefly 2 years ago and again last year. And the strike 2 pitch on the way is swung on and missed, and down he goes. So for Maeda, he struck out 8 when the Dodgers were in the Rockies, and he's trying to catch up here. So here's Russin, the pitcher, batting left-handed. Russin with the bat has 2 hits in 19 at-bats, but he has 3 runs batted in, so obviously not a bad hitter. Maeda delivers a drag bunt, is left back to the screen. 0-1 the count. No score. We're in the top of the 3rd inning. Kenta Maeda and Chris Russin. The Rockies will fly home tonight, and they play a 3 o'clock game tomorrow afternoon. Here's the strike 1 pitch on the way, swung on, hit in the air to left field, and it is going to drop for a base hit. Rounding first and then holding on is Russin, and he gets back to the bag. Great effort by Kike Hernandez, going way out into left field and near the foul line. Made a sprawling effort, but no play.
Number 19, Charlie Blackmon.
Hernandez beating the left fielder, and that would be Howie Kendrick. And actually, Kendrick watching Hernandez have his glove on the ball and unable to hold it. It'll be a base hit since he had to go a long way and make a great effort. So Russin gets himself a single left. And with 2 down, here's Charlie Blackmon, who struck out in the 1st inning. The Rockies have 6 left-hand batters plus a switch hitter, which means 7 left-hand hitters. Change up in for a strike, and the count to Charlie 0-1. So Walt Weiss loading the deck, hoping that left-handers will do something against Maeda, hoping that Carlos Gonzalez will make contact. He has struck out 5 times now in the last 2 games. Strike 1 pitch on the way, in the dirt. Nice block by A.J. Ellis. The Rockies are 1 game under 500 on the road. They are 5 games under 500 at home. But in the Western Division is doing pretty well. And one reason would be Nolan Arenado, who leads the club. The 1-1 pitch on the way is whacked to center. Thompson going back, but he has plenty of room. Makes the catch for the out, and that's the inning. No runs, 1 hit, a man left, and at the end of 2.5 innings, no score. In the ball game. Up north, the Red Sox and the Giants are in the third. No score. That's Madison Bumgarner and David Price, each with a record of 7-2. Chris Russian, who had that fly ball single in and out of the glove of Kike Hernandez. Big left-hander ready to work. And the Dodgers will send up Austin Barnes, followed by Kenta Maeda, and then Kike Hernandez. So Austin Barnes just called up, getting a little work. Appeared as a pinch hitter last night and flied to right field. He also appeared as a pinch hitter for Bolsinger and flied to left field. And he also pinch hit for Fiend and struck out. So this will be his third career start at second. Austin, a good infielder and a fine backup catcher as well. So a handy guy to have on a club. And of course, when Carl Crawford was released, or at least designated for assignment, Barnes was called up. And the first pitch high and away, ball one. We're in the third. No score. Russian, the pitcher, has been the only base runner for the Rockies. The Dodgers had a leadoff single by Kike Hernandez, and he got as far as third. 1 ball and 1 strike to Austin Barnes. Out of Riverside and lives in Corona. Called up from Oklahoma City. 1-1 fastball grounded up the middle. To his right is LeMahieu to make the play. So Barnes tapping out, 1 away. And here comes Kenta Maeda. On this day in 1955, the Dodgers optioned pitcher Tommy Lasorda to Montreal. And that make room on the roster for the bonus baby Sandy Koufax, who had been on the injured list. Third inning, no score. Maeda, right-hand batter, checking in. Russian starts him, fastball strike. 0-1 to count to Kenta. Maeda has 2 hits, including a home run. He has a look at a pitch low. 1 ball and 1 strike. So the Rockies fly all night and then play at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The fellow who is really going to be sleepless is the manager, Walt Weiss. Little ground ball wild at third. Arenado on the run, makes the play. So Nolan has handled 3 now. Balls hit by Kendrick, Ellis, and Maeda. Walt Weiss lives outside of Denver. Many years ago, he bought a lovely home and quite a bit of property, but it is outside, maybe over an hour's drive. And you say, well, that's not so bad, certainly not here in Los Angeles. But by the time they land, adding the 2 hours to the clock, and by the time he drives home, it'll almost be time for him to turn around and drive back because it's a 3 o'clock game. So here's Kike, takes a strike, single, got around to third, got muddied on the base paths, and then diving and had that bloop single off his glove. 0-1. Russian back with a pitch fouled off, and so he's in a hole now, is Kike. No balls and 2 strikes. Hernandez came into the game hitting .212. He does have 4 home runs. Russian on the third base side of the rubber. Comes right back to his hitter, and there's a fly ball into right field. Coming up for it and putting it away is Gonzalez. So the Dodgers go 1-2-3. That means Russian has retired 9 in a row since the leadoff single. And we're going to the 4th. No score. Sportsnet LA is brought to you by the Dodge Challenger. Test drive one at your local Dodge dealer today. And by Jack in the Box. It's back. The Portobello Mushroom Buttery Jack. Taste it before it's gone at Jack in the Box. No score in the fourth. Let's see. Don Newcomb, 36. Eddie Roebuck, 37. Larry Sherry, 35. Don Drysdale, 53. Carl Erskine, 16. So many familiar faces from way back. Down at the end of the line, Jim Gilliam, Charlie Dressen, Jake Pittler. Wow. That was an amazing team in 59. You know, the 58 team, the Dodgers had to make a big decision. They're coming from Brooklyn to play their first year in Los Angeles. Do they bring an old team, or do they bring a bunch of kids and hope to build out here? Well, they decided to go with the old team, and they played like an old team in 1958, an 8-team league, and they finished 7th. But then a miracle. In 1959, they won everything, the pennant and the World Series. It was the first time in history that a 7th place team the next year won the World Series. 1959, the screen down the left field line in the Coliseum. Crowds, huge crowds. Home runs by Wally Moon. Remarkable year. Fourth inning, no score. And there's a hopper through into center field. So LeMahieu starts off with a single with Gonzalez and Arenado coming up. Now, Carlos Gonzalez is a terrific player. Not just a good player. He's a terrific player. And yet, in this series, he has seen 44 pitches, and he has put 2 in play. He has swung and missed 13 times and fouled off another 8. And we're talking about a truly remarkable player. So that's how tough it gets in the big leagues, no matter how good you are. Carlos Eduardo Gonzalez from Maracaibo in Venezuela. His credentials, look at that. 2-time All-Star, 2-time Silver Slugger, couple of Gold Gloves. 2 of the best pitchers in the National League, without any argument, right? Madison Bumgarner and Clayton Kershaw. Against Kershaw, he's hitting about 167. Change. That's a strike. So Kershaw's giving him just 2 home runs and a 167 batting average. Bumgarner, he's hitting 350 against Madison, and he has 5 home runs. 1 ball and 1 strike. LeMahieu standing at first. Big drink of water, but he also runs well. No score, 4th inning. The pitch to Gonzalez, swung on and fouled back. LeMahieu has stolen 6 out of 9. Eric Young, who knows all about stealing bases, coaching at first, says something to LeMahieu. Eric Young, better known as EY, played for the Dodgers 1997, 98, 99. Gonzalez won the batting championship in his first full season. 2010, he hit 336. Check swing. He swung, says Jim Joyce. So for Carlos Gonzalez, it's truly remarkable. He struck out 4 times last night, and he has struck out twice tonight. So 6 strikeouts and 1 single. But the 1 single that he had almost took the hands off Chase Utley, and it knocked in the tying run in the 7th inning last night. But boy, he has hit rock bottom last night and tonight. 6 strikeouts for Kenta Maeda. And here's Nolan Arenado. He struck out in the 2nd inning. No score in the 4th. And the first pitch to Nolan is low, ball 1, 1-0. Arenado, supremely gifted. He should have an incredible career. LeMahieu taking a cautious lead. And the next pitch fouled away. Nolan was born in Newport Beach and lives in Lake Forest. We mentioned it last night. He really wears out the Giants, and he wore them out last year. The last 28 games that Nolan has played in San Francisco, 18 games, he's knocked in 42 runs. Talking about 42, he had 42 home runs and 130 runs batted in last night. Throw to first last year. 1 ball and 1 strike. LeMahieu at first. Arenado and Parra hitting back of him. LeMahieu kind of a daddy long legs over there at first. Cautious lead. The 1-1 pitch to Arenado is taken for a strike. 1-2. Waiting on deck, Gerardo Parra. Arenado, big man on campus in high school. He hit safely in 27 of his 28 high school games as a senior. Caught everybody's attention. He takes low. In that senior year in high school, he hit .529, so he signed with the Rockies. They chose him in the 2nd round. The one thing they tell me about Arenado, yes, he is superbly gifted, but he is perhaps as hard a player as there is on the Rockies team. 2-2 pitch on the way. Instead, Maeda backs off the rubber. We have 1 out. Maeda has made 49 pitches, ready for number 50. 2-2 pitch coming up. Arenado waiting. Maeda's slow curve is swung on and missed. So the big boys, Gonzalez and Arenado, are really useless for the Rockies pitchers. They have now struck out 4 times between them. Maeda has struck out 7, struck out 8 in 6 1/3 back in Colorado in April. So boy, you pitch and you strike Gonzalez twice and Arenado twice. You have really turned in a job. Kenta now working on Parra, who flied to center in the 2nd inning. And the first pitch missing, ball 1. On this day in 1961, Milwaukee set a major league record. 4 consecutive home runs against the Reds. Here's the 1-0 pitch, and that's a little low. Eddie Matthews, Henry Aaron, Joe Adcock, Frank Thomas. Joe Adcock, big first baseman, hit a ball out of Ebbets Field, hit it up over the roof and out into the street. And the next game he was hitting ahead. And boy, was there a rhubarb about that. Off speed, drops in nicely. 2-1 the count to Gerardo Parra. Two and one. Here comes Maeda, swung on, little roller to the right side. Austin Barnes, easy play. So no runs, 1 hit and 1 left. Maeda walks off at the end of 3.5 innings. No score. Bottom of the fourth inning, no score. Through April, the Dodgers had no muscle at all. They ranked 29th. They hit just a little more than 22%. However, since May 1, the ball club has exploded over 44% to give them 63 home runs for the year. They've moved up to number 7. So Robert's looking for anything right now. It's no score. Dodgers have just one hit. Leadoff single by Chiche Hernandez. And now here's Turner taking ball 1, 1-0. Kike hitting .223. That's at the knees for a strike. 1 ball and 1 strike to count. Chris Russin, 6'2", 195, out of Detroit and Canton, Michigan. Turner right on the plate, takes away. The leadoff single by Hernandez, and Russin has gotten everybody else. 9 in a row. Got a little help by Arenado on a ball hit by Kendrick in the second inning. That one picked up nicely by Adames to throw him out. So a couple of gloves out there for Colorado. No score as Turner taps to short.
Adrian Gonzalez.
That'll bring up Adrian Gonzalez. 1935 on this day, June the 8th. Lou Gehrig collided with Carl Reynolds on a play at first base, and he had to leave the game with arm and shoulder injuries. However, his consecutive streak was preserved in part by a rainout of the next day's game and followed by an open date. Adrian takes a strike. Hit back to the box in the first inning. Hitting less than 163 at home and 387 on the road. Strike 1 pitch inside and grazed him. Hit by a pitch, he'll go to first. So Walt Weiss sees his big left-hand pitcher just nick Adrian Gonzalez. He's aboard, and here comes Trace Thompson.
Number 21.
Thompson hit the ball hard in the first inning, but instead of going up the middle, it hit Russin's leg. And Chris was able to scamper after the ball and throw him out. Thompson, 269, 10 home runs, 22 RBIs. His brother is very busy tonight. Golden State and the Warriors going up and down the court. Trace waiting. Strike. 0-1. Trace Thompson right up there with the leaders among the rookies with home runs. Trevor Story has 16. Corey Seager 14. And then you have Thompson, Zara, and Park with 10. One and one. No score, bottom of the fourth. In the dirt, nice pick by Hundley. Russin has the sinker, he has the four-seamer, he has a slider, a cutter, a curveball, and a changeup. So he has all the cards. They say his best pitches are the four-seamer and the cutter. If he's on, he is a ground ball machine. So far, so good. High fly ball, shallow right. LeMahieu out, Gonzalez in. It will be Gonzalez. 2 down. He's still that ground ball machine. Gonzalez grounded out. Thompson grounded out. Kendrick grounded out. Ellis grounded out. Barnes grounded out. Maeda grounded out. Turner grounded out. So he is getting the ground ball. He's almost 2 ground outs for every ball hit in the air. That's his trademark. And here's Scott Van Slyke. struck out in the second inning. Now Russian does not overpower people. He has just one strikeout. Line drive foul. 0-1. In contrast to Russian, who has one strikeout, Maeda has 7. So Kenta at the far end of the dugout just kind of cooling off a little bit. Meanwhile, Russian plants the left foot, looks over at Gonzalez, who certainly is not a threat to steal, but could be going on a hit and run play. Breaking ball, but it stayed up. 1 ball and 1 strike. Scott Van Slyke lost a lot of time on the DL. Now he's back trying to catch up. 1-1. Fastball missed. Now 2-1. We were talking that if Adrian's running, it would be on a hit and run play. The only thing to put a hit and run play on with Van Slyke is that he's a little rusty, but we'll see. Scotty has struck out 4 times in 15 at-bats. Gonzalez very short lead. He is not going, and the breaking ball, the curveball missed. 3-1. Waiting on deck, Howie Kendrick. Russian with 2 out. Remember, he nicked Gonzalez. Chris heaving a big sigh. He's only allowed 1 hit. 3-1 pitch coming up. Fastball hit late and foul off to the right. So a full count on Scott Van Slyke. No runs, 2 hits for the Rockies. No runs, 1 hit for the Dodgers. For the Dodgers, they have just 1 strikeout. For the Rockies, they have struck out 7 times. So 3-2 with 2 down. Gonzalez will be going. There he goes. Fastball and a high chopper back to the mound. Russian flips to first, and that's it. No runs, no hits, a hit batter, and a man left. And at the end of 4, no score. Flattened the Rockies. First of all, in Colorado, he struck out 8 in 6 innings. Tonight, he has struck out 7 so far. So he has struck out 15 in his 2 games, and that would be 15 in 10 and a third innings. So let's see what he does tonight. Remember, last night, the Rockies struck out 15 times. The scouts are always talking about the Rockies, about what they do in Colorado and what they do at sea level. And one thing I've heard them talk about, and Nolan Arenado could certainly tell you, is when they're in Colorado, because the ball carries so well, they get a different swing, kind of uplifting the ball a little bit. And that's fine in Colorado. Then they take that swing sea level and it doesn't work. Well, with all of that, if you look at their work, they're 5 games under 500 at home. They're only 1 game under on the road. Nick Hundley doing well with the bat, formerly with San Diego. 1 ball and 1 strike. Foul ball off to the right. Rockies were doing very well until the 18th of May, and then the club just floundered, and they're trying to get the magic back. They began the night 8 games back of San Francisco, 5 behind the Dodgers, who trailed by 3. Fastball low. Talking about the Giants, Chris Young just hit a home run for the Red Sox. So the Red Sox lead the Giants 1-0, top of the 4th inning. Home run against Madison Bumgarner. Change curve, fouled away. Well, we thought from what we had heard that Maeda would trust his fastball a little more than usual. So far, he's allowed a fly ball single by Russin, a single by LeMahieu, while striking out 7. 2-2. Fastball got him at 91. Strikeout number 8. So it means the Rockies in the last 2 games have struck out 23 times.
Number 3, Daniel Descalso.
So 1 out. Daniel Descalso, pinch hit home run last night. Fly to center in the 3rd. Veteran, spent a lot of time with the Cardinals. Ball 1. Maeda and Russin, pitching duel. Final game of the series and the homestand. Atlanta and Colorado. 2-0. Descalso, about 5'10", 185, 190 maybe. Spent 5 years with the Cardinals and then came over here. 3-0 the count. Waiting and hitting behind him, the shortstop, Chris Adames. 3-0. 3-1. When he was about 5 years old, he and Brandon Crawford were teammates. Not in baseball or even t-ball. They were teammates on the soccer field. Another strike. So I'm sure he and Brandon are close pals. They both live up north. Then you have Arenado and Thompson involved in this series. 3-2. Breaking ball fouled away and off his foot. Descalso playing baseball against Brandon Crawford. They were in Babe Ruth baseball and also AAU championship. Back in 2009, he played second base for Team USA when the team won the gold medal at the World Cup. Good player, Daniel Descalso. And ball 4. So Maeda, after 8 strikeouts, gives up a walk. Hey, don't forget, their first 40,000 fans in attendance, Father's Day, June the 19th. will receive Dodger boxers, compliments of Chef Marito seasonings. After the game, play catch on the field. So for tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. Oh yeah, there's a picture, father and son. That's great.
Dodgers!
Sinker hit foul outside of first. Nice effort by Adrian Gonzalez, but it was a foul ball. 0-1 to count. We have one out, fifth inning, no score. Descalso, who walked, is at first. Adames batting eighth in the lineup. Descalso has not been involved in a stolen base. Eric Young comes over to say something to him. And remember, the pitcher, Russin, on deck, had a base hit to left field in the third inning. 0-1. 1-1. Bottom of the first inning, it was 1-0 Red Sox on the home run by Chris Young. So Brandon Belt just hit a home run for the Giants. 1-1 in the fourth. That's quite a game. David Price and Madison Bumgarner, each with a record of 7-2. There goes the runner, hit and run chopper up the middle. On the bag, I believe, for one. The throw to first for two. It was Barnes who did it. We had to make sure that the second base umpire, Ramon De Jesus, saw him on the bag. The Rockies are thinking maybe not. So let's wait and see. There's Barnes. Watch the foot. There's the catch. Is his foot on the bag or not? Well, according to the rookie umpire, De Jesus, it was on the bag, but yep. So Barnes does a fine job. Double play 4-3, and at the end of 4.5, no score. You buy your Southern California Toyota dealers. Toyota's Summer Drive Sales event is going on now, where you can save big on the all-new Prius. It was at Yankee Stadium. Dodgers for the Brooklyn neighbor, trying to win a World Series against the Yanks. Eddie Roebuck, sidearm right-hander, sinker baller. Great guy to come out of the bullpen and a great guy to have in the ball club. Here's Howie Kendrick. Then Ellison Barnes. 1 ball and no strikes. One and one. Kendrick, the only Dodger to really hit the ball hard, but Nolan Arenado was there to handle it. Dodgers had Hernandez single to lead off the game, and Gonzalez grazed by a pitch. That's it. Russin comes right back with a strike. 1-2. Dodgers 4 games above 500, and that's because they've been very successful of late at home. On the road, they're a break-even 15-15, and they're going on the road to San Francisco and Arizona. Then they'll come home, a 4-game series with Milwaukee, and then 3 with the Washington Nationals. The Nationals 3.5 in front of the Mets. They've won 35 games. The Cubs are the winningest team in the majors. The Cubs have won 40. 1 ball and 2 strikes. And bad ball. He went after it. Down he goes. In direct contrast to Maeda, who has 8 strikeouts, Russin has 2. And here's A.J. Ellis, grounded to third. 0 for 1. For Russin, he is pitching certainly the best game of the year. He came here with an earned run average of 4.6 and with a record of 1-4. But boy, he's on his game tonight. 1 ball and no strikes to A.J. That's in there for a strike. 1-1. For Russin, he made only 50 pitches through the first 4 innings, including a 9-pitch third inning. Maeda, through his 5 innings, has made 70 pitches. But of course, that's because he's been striking out everybody to have 8. Two and 1. And a line drive base hit to left field. Parra over to pick it up. So A.J. comes up with the Dodgers' second hit, and that will bring up Austin Barnes.
For 28, Austin Barnes.
Austin Barnes made a good play on that ground ball off the bat of Adames, stepping on the bag and getting his throw off in time. Austin just called up from Oklahoma City. I'm sure he has a lot of friends and family here. He now lives in Corona. His uncle is Mike Gallego. You may remember Mike played in the big leagues for over 13 years. Fastball, grounded foul, right on by first base coach George Lombard. Over at third, Chris Woodward. 0-1. Barnes will be 27 a couple of days after Christmas. He's got Ellis at first with 1 out. Fastball missed. You don't expect Ellis to do any running. And we're down now to the number 8 hitter in the lineup. Descalso, however, still holding the corner on A.J. And waiting is Kenta Maeda. And missed again. 2 balls, 1 strike. Christopher Patrick Russin, R-U-S-I-N. And the sinker misses at 90, ball 3. Russin is 1-4, 0-2 on the road. On the road, he has certainly pitched better than in Colorado. ERA 3.4. 3-1. Ellis is not going. Ground foul, 3-2. Coming into this game, the 7th through the 9th hitters were batting .326 against Rusin. Well, tonight the 7th hitter, Ellis, singled. Here's the number 8 hitter with a 3-2 count. Ellis is not going, and the ball hit down the right field line, foul, and a nice catch down there by the ball boy. He gives it to a man with a huge glove. You'd have that special made. Gigantic. 3-2 the count to Austin Barnes. We're in the bottom of the 5th inning, no score. Totals identical, no runs, 2 hits, no errors. 3-2. Ellis draws a throw. He wasn't going on the last 3-2. One out. Rusin very deliberate now. Another look at Ellis. We'll see. AJ hasn't tried. He's not going now. And another foul ball. Austin Barnes last year at Oklahoma City hit .290. Not a power hitter. He had a couple of home runs, but he had a very good year, and again this year. And finally, here he is. Three and two again. Ellis not going again, and it's ball 4. So that's his first walk. Remember, Rusin also hit a batter, Nick Gonzalez. Hundley out to talk to Chris, and Kenta Maeda coming up. So Maeda checking. Do they want him to bunt even though there is one out, stay out of the double play and hope Hernandez can get lucky? Or will they have him swinging away? We'll find out in a moment. Maeda with the bat has one sacrifice. So we'll see what Roberts wants. The Rockies are going to be conservative. They'll have Adames trying to hold Ellis on at second. Arenado is even with the bag at third, and Descalso ready to charge the plate. Maeda shows bunt and gets it down. A beauty. Arenado's only play is to first. There are 2 Rockies there, and they missed the bag. Wow. Rusin, the pitcher, went over. Descalso was there, and Tommy Reynolds is on the phone checking with the videographer. So Arenado plenty of time, and then looks and says, wait a minute, who do I give it to? Well, he gave it to the taller of the 2, Rusin, who was off the bag. Look at this. And Rusin has to come off. If Descalso had been allowed, he would have caught it. Oh, what an embarrassing moment for a big league club. That is one for the books. So the bases are loaded. Fouled at the plate, 0-1. We'll check to see how in the world they are ruling that. They haven't said anything yet. You know, at one time they were talking about having a special category called a team error. The error is going to be charged at Descalso, and all he did was stand on the bag. Wow. Anyway, they were talking about a category. How about a team error? That would have been a classic team error. Instead, they give it to the most innocent, and that's Descalso, because he was where he should have been. So we'll see just how big that error is, but the error really was Rusin getting over there to confuse. So the bases are loaded. Still one out. Good sinker. 1-2. Hernandez single to left. In case you wonder, he has one grand slam. He hit it against Washington. And look at those numbers with bases loaded. 1-2 to Kike Hernandez. Ellis, Barnes, Maeda are all out there. 2-2. Instead of 2 out, runners at second and third. You have the bases loaded with 1 out. A nightmare for Walt Weiss. Ellis, Barnes, and Maeda out on the lines. 2-2. Fastball swung on and missed. So Hernandez strikes out. Third strikeout for the Dodgers.
Third baseman, Justin Turner.
Good slider down and in. And now here comes Turner. Justin Turner flied to center, grounded to short. Has been very successful, as you can see, with the bases loaded. No grand slams. He is 1 for 5 in this situation this year. Ellis at third, Barnes at second, Maeda at first, and ball 1. Nice save by Nick Hundley. Nick doing a great job. That's a textbook play. Nothing fancy. You don't try to backhand the ball. You shift your body. You face the heart of the mitt towards the mound. You're on your knees and you just make sure it doesn't get by. Good play. 1 ball, no strikes. Ball 2. So now Russin has to throw some strikes. In the inning, Kendrick struck out. Ellis single to left. Barnes walked. Maeda bunted. Arenado threw to first, and Russin and Descalso was there. Descalso should have been there, and Russin intercepted the throw, and yet they gave Descalso an error. So now 2-0 the count to Turner. No score in the 5th inning. I'm still trying to figure out how they gave Descalso the error. I mean, he never touched the ball. He stood on the bag waiting for the throw. 2-0 is fouled away. Two and 1. Here's that play. There's Russin. There's Descalso, and Russin just interferes. Oh, I'm sorry. In saying Russin, I just noticed it's another tall LeMahieu. Okay, so LeMahieu gets the error for intercepting the throw, and that makes a heck of a lot of more sense. 2 and 1. Fouled away. So check the scoring, take that away from Descalso, and the error is LeMahieu. Meanwhile, bases loaded. Hello there, Dynamite. Oh, don't cry. Two balls and 2 strikes. Ground foul. So Russin had made only 50 pitches through 4 innings, and he has made 29 pitches here in the 5th. So in a wild game, Adrian waiting on deck. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, 3 on, and it's in the dirt. So 30 pitches in the inning for a pitcher who had only 9 pitches in the 3rd inning and 12 pitches in the 2nd. Walt Weiss dying a little, I'm sure. The inning should be over except for that mess at first base. 3-2, runners go. Ground ball to Arenado, who winds up and zings it to first for the out. So with all of it, the Dodgers get a base hit, they get a walk, there was an error, have the bases loaded and come up empty. And at the end of 5, it's still no score. In 1921, Babe Ruth is arrested for speeding. He's fined $100. He put in jail. They're going to release him at 4 o'clock. In those days, all the day games in New York were played at 3:15, but the Babe couldn't get out till 4. So the Yankees rushed a uniform to him, and he got his uniform on while in jail. At 4 o'clock, they raced him to Yankee Stadium. Yankees were winning 3-2. He wound up playing center field. He went 0 for 1 in that game. However, he did have a stolen base, and the Yankees won the game, and he was out of jail. Let's go back to this one. Of course, the Babe was such a tremendous figure. That was the year he hit 59 home runs. 0-1 to Russell. The estimated crowd at Yankee Stadium, 22,000. One ball and one strike. By the way, the Yankees beat Cleveland that day. Wade Hoyt was the winner for the Yankees. Wade Hoyt wound up broadcasting for the Cincinnati Reds, and he was a marvelous storyteller. Fouled away. In fact, Cincinnati fans hoped for rain delays because they wouldn't go back to the studio. They'd stay with Wade Hoyt, and he would start telling stories, and they just loved it. Can you imagine a story that begins, me and Babe? Wow, they got a lot of attention. Breaking ball lifted to right field. Easy play for Scott, one away. If you happen to be scoring, that play in the 5th inning, 2 men at first base. The error went to LeMahieu, and it was a sacrifice for Maeda. Charlie Blackmon struck out, fly to center, 0 for 2. Off the corner, ball 1. On this day, In 1965, a sophomore at Arizona, Rick Monday was selected by the Oakland A's. Rick was the first player chosen in the very first Major League free agent draft of high school, college, and sandlot players. Second was a pitcher named Les Rohr. Then the Mets got Nolan Ryan, and the Cincinnati Reds picked up Johnny Bench. 2-0. Change, whack to center, going back on it is Thompson, and this is off his glove, bangs off the wall. Into second base goes Charlie Blackmon. Trace Thompson, who is not, I don't think, as good a center fielder as he is a right fielder, and he was unable to make the play. Curveball and a slow curve, and Charlie had plenty of time. Trace has the ball miss his glove, and he bangs into the boards and kind of loosened the pads out there at the 395 sign. So a double to center, and the batter LeMahieu. So Blackmon, who runs well, the base hit can score him. Watching Trace Thompson, his body language tells you he feels like he should have caught it. They're now pushing the pads together from the outside. 1 out, 6th inning, no score. Fastball, great catch by Gonzalez, but no play at second base. Wow. Adrian going up the ladder with that Gold Glove, firing so accurately to Kike Hernandez. However, Charlie Blackmon just did get back to the bag. Watch this. Up the ladder, and then firing a dart. Hernandez on his knees to catch it. No play. So the Dodgers are fortunate. That line drive by LeMahieu, a great play by Adrian, the Gold Glover. And now here he is, Cargo, who has been on the outside looking in. And now let's see. I think Dave Roberts wants that play at second base to be reviewed.
Call on the field is under review.
Was Kike on the bag before Blackmon could get back? James Joyce on the right, the crew chief. Take another look. Here's Blackmon going back with a hand. Looks like the hand is there. Hard to say. It is a young umpire at second base wearing the headphones, Ramon de Jesus. He is the first Dominican to become a major league umpire. He was the one who made the call. Meanwhile, wisely, Maeda is not going to stand around, safe at second base. All right. So Blackmon just did get back with a hand. 2 out in the 6th. No score. Great defensive play. Otherwise, that's down the line for a double, and the Rockies are leading. So Adrian saved the moment, if not the day. And here now is the mystery. I mean, come on. Cargo is a terrific player. He struck out 4 times last night. He has struck out twice tonight. The Cargo strikes out 6 times in 2 games and once in the first game. So he struck out 7 times, and there's a man to be picked up at second base. 2 out. Foul back. Gonzalez, with the strikeouts piling up, has struck out 51 times. Mark Reynolds, who always strikes out a lot, has struck out 52. But it's the rookie Trevor Story has struck out 85 times. Fouled away. So once again, Gonzalez is up there. No balls and 2 strikes. Rushing, by the way, in that tough 5th inning, he made 31 pitches. So it went from 50 pitches to 81. Meanwhile, that's exactly where Maeda is. No score. 6th inning. Blackman at second base, 2 out. One and two. Gonzalez in his career has struck out as high as 135, but that was 6 years ago, and then 133 last year. And time. So Blackman, who runs well, he could score on a base hit. Maeda ready. So is Gonzalez, 31 years old come October. 1 and 2. 2 and 2. Blackman doubled on a ball that Trace Thompson certainly felt he should have caught. Just watching his reactions, he was kicking at the grass as if to say, I missed that one, but Adrian didn't miss the bullet off the bat of LeMahieu, so that's kept it scoreless up for the moment. 2 and 2. Wow, that is really something. Carlos Gonzalez has struck out 3 times tonight after 4 times last night, and he gets a large slice of humble pie. No score. Is brought to you by Nissan. Choose Nissan today for great offers on our most exciting lineup ever. Shop online at choosenissan.com. And by Energy Upgrade California. Energy tips, rebates, and financing options are available at energyupgradeca.org. A look back at the World Series. Earl Batty, the catcher for Minnesota. Lou Johnson for the Dodgers. Ron Fairley, number 6 for the Dodgers. The World Series they won. Meanwhile, Gonzalez takes ball 1. Adrian, maybe a game-saving play, making that leaping catch in the 6th inning. No score. There's a beach ball on the track by the scoreboard, and there's a delay. Gonzalez hit back to the box and hit by a pitch. And for Carlos Gonzalez, a nightmare 2 games. He has struck out 7 times. The one good thing for his sanity, he has been playing this game in the big leagues since 2008, so I'm sure he's had his share of tough days. They all do. Off speed. We'll see about Russian now. He really had to work in the 5th inning. He was coming along nicely, and then in the 5th he made 31 pitches. So we'll see what kind of an effect that might have. There's a soft line drive, actually a looping single for a base hit. So Gonzalez leads off with a single to left. For the Dodgers, they now have 3 hits. So, you know, you can gear up for summer with the Dodger Cooler Backpack, available to the first 40,000 fans in attendance. That's June 20th, courtesy of your SoCal Honda dealer. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotion. Well, here's Trace Thompson, who I know felt he should have caught the ball hit by Blackmon. Now with a chance to redeem himself with Gonzalez at first. Nobody out in the 6th. Strike. On this day in 1968, Don Drysdale works 4 scoreless innings against the Phillies before finally allowing a run. After 58 2/3 shutout innings, outfielder Howie Bedell hit a sacrifice fly to drive in the run. Interesting, that was the other RBI, the only one he hit in 68. Fastball lifted to right. Cargo started back, now comes up. That's one problem about playing the outfield. When you're having the kind of a series that Gonzalez has, you naturally have a tendency to start thinking, what in the world's wrong with me? Why am I not doing this? Why am I? And all of a sudden the ball is there. 1 out. And here's Van Slyke. Drysdale broke the record of 56 consecutive scoreless innings held by Walter Johnson. And then Oral Hershiser broke that. Ball 1 to Van Slyke, who has struck out and hit back to the box. Chris Russin came in with a 1-4 record, 1-1 lifetime against the Dodgers. Fastball foul back. So Scotty up there on a 1-1 count. Checking with Chris Woodward. Dodgers came into the game 6 wins and 7 losses against left-hand starters. Adrian, a flare single to left. Dave Roberts hoping to somehow get him around. That was a pitch up, 1-2. Dodgers leave town tomorrow evening to go to San Francisco. Trace Thompson and company. It'll be Clayton Kershaw 8-1 against Johnny Cueto 9-1. And a line drive, a leaping catch by Adames, although he didn't have to go up in the air like Gonzalez. So Van Slyke losing a hit, 2 down. The Red Sox and the Giants are 1-1 in the 7th inning. However, remember when the game started, it was David Price against Madison Bumgarner. Bumgarner is now out of that game. He made 101 pitches in 6 innings. He gave up 4 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, and struck out 5. So he is no longer involved in the decision. 0-1. Kendrick robbed of a hit by Arenado and struck out. Russell looks like he just took that glove out of a box. It looks brand new. Do you ever have a new glove? Oh, what a feeling. Ground ball to the left of short. Adames makes the play on that high flip. Good thing that LeMahieu is 6'4". So they get the force play. No runs a hit, a man left. And at the end of 6, no score.
More than just 12 players. Presented by State Farm. Take a look at
Is brought to you by Cricket Wireless. Cricket, something to smile about. A little princess with her Don Newcomb doll. Take care of that bobblehead. Oh my goodness. Oh well. Enough said. All you have to do is look and enjoy. Foul ball, 0-1 the count. No runs and 3 hits for each side. Arenado, Parra, and Hundley in that order. Arenado has struck out twice. Ground ball, fair ball. Turner on the line, throws him out. So the heart of the lineup is not beating. Gonzalez has struck out 3 times. Arenado has struck out twice, so they're 0 for 6. The numbers 3 and 4 batters. Gerardo Parra, fly to center, grounded out, 0 for 2. Nick Hundley on deck. In the Dodger bullpen, right-hander Lewis Coleman getting ready to pitch. Adam Liebertor is throwing. Out in left center, they had to retrieve a ball or a balloon. Thompson got it back into the seats. So here's Parra. Gerardo, 5 home runs, 26 runs batted in. Dodgers move Adrian, and the ball goes the other way, foul. Adrian was pretty far off the line, and then A.J. Ellis kind of waved to him. Though Adrian maybe getting needled a little bit. Yeah, that's somebody's on his case. Roberts getting a kick out of it. 1-1. Position is everything. Adrian was far off the line, and somebody on him, and he's gesturing now. He's getting it. I guess it's EY, yeah. 1-1. Ball 2. Can you imagine EY? Man like you've been around so long, you don't know where to play the hitters? And played well. And a bunt foul. Maeda, coming into the inning, had made 84 pitches. He's now up to 90. Russin has made 92 pitches. After that nightmare 31 pitch inning, he came back with only 11. So Parra, Hundley, Descalso. 2-2. Fastball hit down the left field line. Fair ball going into the corner. And Gerardo Parra into second base with a double. Well, with one out in the 6th inning, Blackman doubled off the center field wall. And now in the 7th with one out, Parra doubles to left. No score. Maeda now has allowed 4 hits. They left Blackman at second base thanks to that leaping catch by Adrian Gonzalez. Now Hundley, who was robbed of a hit, a nice smothering play by second baseman Barnes in the 2nd inning. Nick struck out in the 5th. And that's away, ball 1. Descalso, left-hand batter on deck. No runs, 4 hits for the Rockies. No runs, 3 hits for the Dodgers. And we're in the 7th inning. Maeda is due to bat 3rd when the Dodgers come up in the bottom of the 7th, and they're backing up anyway with Liebertor and Coleman. Check swing, 2-0. .93 pitches, his high last time out, 107 against Atlanta. 2-1 to Hundley. So Maeda's had 3 games where he has pitched a little over 100. 107 high. Last time out, beat the Braves. Parra at second, runs well. And ball 3. On deck, Descalso. Maeda has had good control. He walked Descalso in the 5th inning. That's the only walk. And he has struck out 9. Last time against the Rockies in Colorado, he went 6 1/3. Off speed, curveball lifted to left. Parra goes to the bag to tag. Kendrick for the catch, and Parra will hold on the throw to Kike Hernandez. So 2 down. Parra still at second base. And the batter will be Daniel Descalso. Descalso homered last night as a pinch hitter, fly to center and walk, and they might be bringing a hook. Roberts going out. He's got Liebertor and Coleman, and he gestures to the bench, and it might be they want Will Ireton, the translator, to go out there. That's what it is. And they're telling the Dodger pitcher, no, go back. Liebertor thought he was being called in, and they're saying no. So obviously Roberts is staying with Maeda. Will Ireton translating. The meeting is broken up, and Maeda will stay in to face Descalso. Dodgers have been doing very well, and one reason the starting pitching staff has an earned run average of 2.5, and the bullpen has an earned run average of 1.5. So the battle with Descalso. Daniel 0 for 1. Veteran infielder playing first base tonight. Off speed, that's going to be flared to center. It's going to be a base hit. Here comes Parra to score. Thompson gets it back in. So after all of that, the first pitch is flared to center for the base hit. So Descalso gets the hit. Parra scores. And it is 1-0 Rockies. Curveball, he just went down to get it. So now Dave Roberts turns and goes back. Thompson pretty deep, couldn't handle the bouncer and had no chance. And Maeda's heart broken. Thompson had no play on that single, especially a guy like Parra and 2 out. So Maeda walking in gets a round of applause, but he gives up a run. So he's down 1-0, and we'll be back. Two-thirds allows 1 run on a little fly ball single to center after Parra had doubled. Thompson had no chance to make a play. With 2 out, Parra was off and running and scored easily. Daniel Descalso is standing at first base, and Adam Liebertor will now come in and try and get the last out in the 7th inning. Liebertor has been terrific. He's tossed scoreless relief in 23 of his 24 games. He has stranded 14 of 18 runners, and he's got a man, Adames, standing at the plate, and Descalso at first. 2 out, 1-0 Rockies in the 7th. Liebertor is due to bat third in the 7th, so actually they want him to just get Adames, and that'll be that. We mentioned earlier the Dodger pitching staff 2.5 and the bullpen 1.5. Both of them very effective. Ball 1. Christian Adames playing for the dazzling rookie Story. Adames has struck out, hit into a double play. Story could use a day off, although he has a lot of home runs, 16. He has struck out 85 times already. Fastball whacked to center, but Thompson is there. So okay, Liebertor comes in, gets his man. Maeda is charged with 1 run, 2 hits in the inning, and at the end of 6 1/2, 1-0 Colorado.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the 7th inning stretch, presented by Coca-Cola.
Well, first of all, they travel. Very short hop to San Francisco. 3 big games, different times for each game. 7:15 Friday night, 4:15 Saturday, and 5:37 on Sunday. Then they leave San Francisco, go to Arizona for 3, and they'll come home and play Milwaukee, and then Washington. Meanwhile, Mark Reynolds takes over at first base for Daniel Descalso. Chase Utley is coming up to bat, and Chad Qualls, a veteran who was born in Lomita, comes in to see if he can get some outs. Chad's a big man, 6'5", 220. And Utley, ball 1. Utley will be followed by Jock Peterson, and then we'll see about Liebertor. Qualls picking up for Russin. Fastball hit to center and deep. Back goes Blackman to the track to make the catch. So Utley hits it hard, but at Blackman. 1 away. Jock Peterson coming up. Chad Qualls, who first came up to the big leagues way back, 2004. So he is a veteran.
Jock Peterson.
Qualls in his 24th game, 2 wins, no losses. He does have a high earned run average, 5.4. And now let's see. Walt Weiss might decide to go to the pen. He has a left-hander, Boone Logan, whom we saw briefly last night. Logan came in last night to face Corey Seager. Now he's been brought in to pitch to Jock Peterson. So while they exchange pitchers, we'll be right back. Brought to you by BMW. See a Southern California BMW Center today for exceptional offers or visit SoCalBMW.com. And by Children's Hospital Los Angeles. We treat kids better. All right, Boone Logan has taken his 8 warm-up tosses. Jock Peterson went over to the bench to get a little instruction about Logan as he bats now for Barnes. Peterson hitting 136 against left-hand pitching. And first ball hitting, a chopper to LeMahieu. So Utley and Peterson are pinch hitters, and they don't hang around very long. 2 out, and here comes Yasmani Grandal batting for Liberatore. One run, 5 hits for the Rockies, no runs, 3 hits for the Dodgers. Right-hander Casey Fiend is now warming up. So Logan has gotten his man after Qualls had gotten his. And now here's the switch hitting catcher Grandal, and a strike. Yasmani Grandal, bothered by bad wrists in a hand from a foul tip in Toronto, hitting 195, 211 right-handed. For Grandal, however, his power is as a left-handed batter. He has 5 home runs, 4 of them hit left-handed. 2 out, 7th inning, 1-0 Colorado. Fastball away. Boone Logan, facing Grandal, is 6'5", 220 pounds. 34 years old, make it 32 years old in August, from San Antone, and originally signed by the White Sox. Three and one. Boone Logan pitched with the White Sox, the Braves, the Yankees for about 5 years. Kike Hernandez on deck. And ball 4. So a 2-out walk to Grandal, and that'll bring up Kike.
Shortstop, number 14.
Tommy Reynolds talking to Walt Weiss, and the manager now will or will not make a decision. Tying run aboard. Carlos Estevez, a right-hander, is throwing in the Colorado pen. So let's see if Walt decides to lift the left-hander. Estevez pitched the 9th inning last night. Gave up the home run to Trace Thompson. Okay, says Walt, he's leaving him in for sure. Hernandez single to left, fly to right, and struck out. Kike playing shortstop tonight, giving Corey Seager a rest. It's been rushing for 6. Qualls came in and got Utley. Logan came in and got Peterson. Grandal walks, and here we go. Fastball fouled away. Boone Logan has a very good earned run average, 1.8. He's now in his 20th game. 5 walks, 18 strikeouts. So Grandal at first, held on by Mark Reynolds. breaking ball, 0-2. Kike came up with the bases loaded in the 5th inning with 1 out and struck out. 0-2. And a fly ball into right center. Here comes Cargo, and that'll be that. Those knees are not the way they used to be, but he's still able to come in and make the catch. So no runs, no hits, man left with the walk. At the end of 7, 1-0 Rockies.
Okay, fans, it's time to play the emoji game presented by Cardinals.
Go to San Francisco Friday night. Clayton Kershaw 8-1, 9-3 at AT&T Park with a dazzling earned run average of 1.2. Johnny Cueto in his first year with the Giants, leaving Cincinnati, he is 9-1 and an earned run average of 2.1. Talking about the Giants, they're in the 8th inning with the Red Sox, and they're all tied up 1-1. Chase Utley, who got into the game to bat, and Utley stays in Ellis' spot. Yasmani Grandal, who came in to hit, will take over behind the plate. And Casey Bean will pick up and do the pitching. Mark Reynolds, who entered the game the same time as Qualls came in. Reynolds batting 9th in the lineup, and he'll be facing Casey Bean. Mark Reynolds, kind of a feast or famine hitter. He's hitting .291, 3 home runs, 17 RBIs. The veteran has struck out 52 times. Mark has always been a free swinger. When we say free, we're talking about the fact that he struck out quite a bit, as many as 200 and some odd, 223, and goes after the first one. So Casey Bean facing a very aggressive hitter. The Dodgers load up the left side of the infield. We're in the 8th, and the Rockies lead 1-0. And another strike. The Rockies struck out 15 times last night. They struck out 9 times tonight against Maeda. 0-2. And a little flare into right field. That's going to drop for a base hit. So Reynolds singles to right, opening up the 8th inning. The paid attendance tonight.
Center fielder number 19, Charlie
nice
Blackman.
crowd, 41,000. 324. 41, 324. So here's Blackmon with Reynolds at first. Charlie struck out, fly to center, doubled off the center field wall in the 6th inning. Ball 1. Last we heard, 1-1 up north. Red Sox and the Giants. That was Bumgarner and Price. Bumgarner's out of there. Made 104 pitches after 6 innings, and they lifted him. Reynolds held on by Gonzalez. The bunt is down. Good bunt. It's going to be picked up by Fiend. Feeding it to Utley. Sacrifice works. And down to second base goes Mark Reynolds. So Charlie does his job.
Second baseman
and the
number 9,
batter now will be
LeMahieu.
LeMahieu, followed by Gonzalez. LeMahieu struck out, singled, and hit a line drive, and a leaping catch by Adrian Gonzalez saved a run. It would have been at least a double down the line, and Blackmon could have walked home from second base. However, in the 7th inning, Parra doubled, and with 2 out, a flare single by Descalso drove in the only run. Ball 1. LeMahieu with Carlos Gonzalez. One ball and no strikes. And a strike. 1-1. Casey Fiend, kind of a pleasant surprise, has done a good job for the Dodgers. In his 6th game with Minnesota, he was in 14. One and two. LeMahieu came into the game hitting .304. Had it not been for Adrian Gonzalez, he'd be 2 for 3. He was charged with an error on a weird play at first base back in the 5th inning. One and two. 2-2. In the 5th inning with 2 on, Maeda dropped a bunt down. Nolan Arenado picked it up, threw over to first, but there were 2 men standing at first. Descalso and LeMahieu. Descalso had his foot on the bag waiting for the throw, and LeMahieu caught it, and he was off the bag. So they gave LeMahieu an error. Dodgers had a huge opportunity but couldn't score. Hernandez struck out and Turner grounded out with the bases loaded. One run, 6 hits for Colorado, 1 error. No runs, 3 hits for the Dodgers. So for Dave Roberts, waiting for his offense to pick up. So far, it's not been heard from. Two and two. And ground ball to the hole on the grass as Utley took a base hit away, and over to third goes Reynolds. So LeMahieu is going to wind up 1 for 4. He could easily have been 3 for 4. But that's the nature of the game.
Carlos Gonzalez.
So Casey Fiend with a runner at third, and here comes Carlos Gonzalez. We've been watching Carlo for a long time. And the last two games, for those of us who have admired him so much, it's been a shock. Striking out 4 times last night, 3 times tonight. Ball 1. Nothing wrong with him. Carlos would be the first to tell you he came into this series feeling great. Gonzalez has struck out 52 times. Shows you how rough it's been. Gargo has not been able to make contact like that. He has seen 55 pitches tonight, and he's put 2 of them in play. By that means making contact. One ball and 1 strike. Ground ball, foul. Up north, Mac Williamson just hit his first career home run against David Price, and the Giants lead the Red Sox 2-1, bottom of the 8th inning. The Cargo has had as tough a series as we have ever seen him have. The balls that he put in play, one was a base hit that drove in a run. Foul back. That was the hard hit ball off the glove of Chase Utley that scored the run in the 7th inning last night. And that ball was really hit hard. And he also grounded out in the 4th inning of the first game. So those are the only 2 balls he has put in play after all those pitches. 1-2. Foul back. So Mark Reynolds at third, 2 out, 8th inning, 1-0 Colorado. Gonzalez came up to the big leagues in 2008. Foul back. Being thrown hard, 94 on the gun. Big moment here. And of course, Nolan Arenado, who was 0 for 3 on deck. 2 out. Gonzalez is 6'1", stands a good 210. Two and two. Little over 41,000. Very quiet right now, with Reynolds at third, 2 out, and the Rockies leading 1-0. Giants are leading 2-1, bottom of the 8th. Two balls, 2 strikes. Fastball pulled foul. Gonzalez, National League batting champion, his first full year. That would be 2010. When he was 8 years old, he saw Bobby Abreu play in a Venezuelan Winter League game, and he went home and immediately took the stance of Abreu. at 8. Wow again. I mean, here's one of the top players in the league, and he has struck out 8 times in the 2 games. 1-0 Colorado. The 2016 Esurance MLB All-Star Game ballot is here. Head to Dodgers.com to choose your hashtag ASG-worthy-stars. Send them to the MLB All-Star Game presented by MasterCard on July 12th in San Diego. Vote at Dodgers.com/vote. Carlos Estevez made 2 pitches last night, and the second pitch, Thompson hit for the game-winning home run. So Estevez now charged in the bottom of the 8th to face Turner, Gonzalez, and Thompson. Ball 1. Turner flied to center, grounded to short, grounded to third. 1 ball, no strikes. 2-0. Estevez throws very hard. He's big, 6'4", 210, from the Dominican. Signed in 2011 as an international free agent by the Rockies. That's in there. Boy, he's throwing hard, 97. Basically, his fastball, the four-seamer, has been clocked at 99. 2-1. Fastball at 98. Again, you know that scouting schedule, they rate you from 20 to 80. His fastball is a double plus 70 on that scouting scale. Then he has a hard curveball and a changeup. 2-2. Check swing, no swing. Though it's all 97 and 98. On deck, Adrian Gonzalez. Whoa, 99 to blow down Turner. In the Dodger bullpen, Pedro Baez and Kenley Jansen.
First baseman number
Nothing
23,
fancy. I'll throw it as hard as I can. You swing as hard as you can. 1 out. So Estevez picks up a strikeout. Adrian Gonzalez hit back to the box, hit by a pitch, flared a single to left. and made a huge defensive play in the 6th inning. Ball 1. That's that leaping one-hand catch he made of LeMahieu's line drive that would easily have gone for extra bases and scored Charlie Blackmon. As it is, it's 1-0 Rockies, 1 out in the 8th. Though Estevez hasn't thrown anything but 98 and 99 mile-an-hour fastball. They say he's working on a slider. Corey Seager imagining the pitch. Foul back, 2-1 the count to Adrian. When Estevan came up in 2015, his pitches were up too much. 2-1 in there. Took a lot off that. Only 90 miles an hour. Well, his changeup has been clocked at 88. Trace Thompson, who beat him last night, on deck. Way outside. And looking at the young, hard-throwing right-hander, he is 1-3. His earned run average is over 5. He has walked 8 and struck out 16. 3-2. And fouled away, and that was up at 99. The Rockies look at this fella and think of him as a possible closer. Not right now. But with that hard stuff, maybe. Whoa. 99 to strike out Turner, 99 to strike out Gonzalez, and now here comes Trace Thompson. It was the second pitch to Trace last night. It was a fastball, and it was the game. As Thompson hit the ball in the left field pavilion, his 10th home run, he was nailed with a bucket full of bubble gum. If you look closely, it's all paper. And then later on, Turner got him with a big bucket full of water. Loading up the left side, and the strike. Boy, all he's done is stand out there and throw 98 and 99. He had one pitch that was 90. I assume that was his changeup. Another fastball and a base hit. And that was 100 miles an hour. Well, that is remarkable that anybody can throw the ball that hard, and anybody can hit it. And Trace Thompson does just that. The pitch was down, and Thompson singled. So 2 out. Dodgers have the tying run at first, and Scott Van Slyke coming up. George Lombard was talking to Thompson, who was reacting. Scotty has struck out, hit back to the box, and lined out to short. Christian Adames reaching up to snare it. Fastball. In fact, I don't think I'll even say it anymore. I mean, just one fastball after another. Two and 0. Carlos Estevez. Fireballer, 6'4", 210. He's only 23. He'll be 24 in December. He hit 100, and that was the pitch Trace Thompson singled. Trace at first, tying run with 2 out. Ball 3. In the low minors, you knew what kind of a pitcher he was. 25 strikeouts, 19 innings, always more strikeouts than innings. He had 50 strikeouts, 53 innings, 43 strikeouts, 36 innings. Three and 2 with 2 down. Thompson goes. Down he goes. So he gives up a base hit, but he strikes out the side. And all BBs. 97 up to 100. And at the end of 8, 1-0 Colorado. Baez. Had the Dodgers tied it up in the 8th or even gone ahead, they probably would have brought in Kenley Jansen. But since they failed to score, Baez will pitch the 9th, and he'll be pitching against Nolan Arenado, Gerardo Parra, and the catcher Nick Hundley. Arenado is 0 for 3, struck out twice, grounded to third. Last night he was 1 for 4 with a double, and in the first game he was 2 for 4. So here comes Arenado, hitting behind Gonzalez, who has just had an awful offensive series. Arenado's had one chance tonight to do something with a man on as Carlos tries to figure out this game he has played so well for so long. So Baez ready. Well, we saw a lot of 98s and 99s and even one 100-mile-an-hour pitch. So let's see what Pedro does. Starts at 96 for a strike. Baez in his 28th game, 0-1. 7 walks, 32 strikeouts. One ball and one strike. Slider missed. Baez in about 26 innings has only allowed 19 hits. 1 run, 6 hits for Colorado. No runs, 4 hits for the Dodgers. Dodgers had the bases loaded with 1 out in the 5th inning. Failed to score. And that really is their only look at the game. They were fortunate because of the mix-up at first base on the sacrifice. But Hernandez struck out and Turner grounded out. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Just did get a little of that. Parra waiting on deck, and then Hundley. Jake McGee is a left-hander. He's up now, throwing in the Rockies bullpen. One and two. Parra doubled, and he's the man who scored the only run in the game. Fastball, ground ball to Utley. So Arenado goes 0 for 4. 1 out in the 9th.
Left fielder number 8, Gerardo Parra.
Here's Gerardo Parra, and he's really the difference in the game. He had flied to center, grounded out, and then in the 7th inning doubled and scored on the base hit by Descalso. Dodgers will have Kendrick and Utley to start off the 9th inning. Howie Kendrick and Chase Utley. After that, we'll see. 98. Boy, you'd be ready to hit a fastball when you're looking at Baez and Estevez. Oh, and 1. Dodgers 4 hits, nothing to show for it. Rockies 6 hits, 1 run. That's a strike. One out, 9th inning. Well, from the looks of things, the Giants have won their game 1-0. Check me, 2-1. No, they won by 1. Yeah, 2-1 Giants. Home run by Mac Williamson. Baez taking plenty of time. Loading up again. Ground ball to the right of Utley. He goes back to get it. 2 down on 2 ground balls to Chase Utley. And the batter will be Nick Hundley. Hundley,
number 4, Nick Hundley
lost a hit on a nice play by Barnes in the 2nd inning. Struck out in the 5th, flied to left in the 7th. Ryan Rayburn, who started last night in left field and had a double and a single, is out on deck. He would hit for Estevez. And a strike at 98. Boy, they are really in the high rent district, Estevez and Baez. I think between them, there's only been 1 pitch less than 90. Baez threw it. 0-1. Now that's the same, that 90-mile-an-hour pitch. Estevez had one of those. 0-2. I don't ever remember years ago so many guys throwing so hard. 0-2. One ball and two strikes. Left-hander McGee throwing in the pen. Two out, one ball and two strikes. Chopper to third, backing up. Nice play by Turner. Throws him out. So 3 ground balls. Nice job by Pedro Baez. We're going to the bottom of the 9th inning. It's 1-0 Colorado. Ninth inning, they're down 1-0. It'll be Howie Kendrick, Chase Utley, and then Corey Seager. Meanwhile, looking ahead, since there are a couple of left-hand batters due up, Walt Weiss brings in Jake McGee, Jacob Daniel McGee from San Jose, and he's a big guy, 6'3", 230. Originally signed by the Devil Rays back in 2004 in the 5th round. At one time, he pitched at Vero Beach in 2007. Jake lives in Reno, Nevada. And McGee is about ready. He's had quite a time. He was with the Rays in 2010 and stayed with them till last year. He went down to Durham. He was not bad, but they sent him down, and now here he is with the Rockies. Interesting thing for McGee, and looking at how he has pitched, with nobody on base, the opposition is hitting .372 against him. Fastball for a strike. When runners on base, all of a sudden the opposition is hitting .211. So 161-point difference. Let's see what happens now. They're going to check. No swing. 1 ball and 1 strike. Liberatore, Feen, and Baez. Russin, Qualls, Logan, Estevez, and now McGee for the Rockies. Again, the Rockies go home, fly all night, and play a game tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Fastball, 2-1. Kendrick robbed of a hit at third by Arenado, struck out and hit into a force play. Dodgers had one real shot, and that was in the 5th inning. Bases loaded, 1 out. They also had a runner at third in the 1st inning, but with 2 out. One run, 6 hits for the Rockies. No runs, 4 hits as Ellis and Thompson talk. And Kendrick letting his bat talk. 2-2. And ball 3. Took a lot off that, 77. For a while, with Utley waiting on deck, McGee had an unconventional windup, but that's a good 10 years ago when they called him clock hands. But his windup now is very orthodox. Well, he's 3-2 to Kendrick. Bottom of the 9th. Fouled away. McGee taking a little time. Fastball, curveball, and changeup basically. Seager waiting on the steps. He'll bat third. Three and 2. Fastball, hard ground ball to first. Reynolds stays with it. Nice play by Mark. That was hit hard. So 1 out in the 9th inning. Chase Utley will be coming up in a moment.
Chase Utley.
Chase Utley came into the game as a pinch hitter in the 6th inning and flied to center. Hit the ball pretty well. Hitting .264. On deck, Corey Seager. Fastball for a strike. Left-handers have done very well against McGee, hitting .368 against him. Right-handers in the 270s. Interesting too, the Dodgers have been pretty patient at the plate. The last 4 Dodger outs have all come on 3-2 pitches. 0-1. Curveball, a one-hopper, backhanded, and fed to McGee. So another nice play by Mark Reynolds. Reynolds used to play a lot of third base, and he's done a fine job moving across the infield. And now, here it comes. The Dodgers down to their last man, and it will be Corey Seager. 1 run, 6 hits, and 1 error for the Rockies. No runs, 4 hits, and no errors for the Dodgers. Hitting behind Seager is Yasmani Grandal, batting 9th. Fastball, ball 1. Seager with those big numbers, hitting .284, 14 home runs, 35 runs batted in. Fastball. That's about it. With Pedro Baez and then Estevez and now McGee. One fastball after another. Baez with his fastballs got 3 ground balls. Estevez with his fastball struck out the side. One ball and 1 strike. 1-2, 96-mile-an-hour fastball. One nothing Rockies. 2 out, bottom of the 9th. Rockies trying to split the 6 games played with the Dodgers thus far. Two and two. And there you go again, another 3-2 count. For the last 5 Dodger hitters have had a 3-2 count. 4 of them made out. And here is Seager. Randall waiting on deck. To center, going back for it is Blackman, and that's it. So Seager off the bench, flies to center, and down go the Dodgers. No runs, 4 hits, and no errors. So the Dodgers fall back to 4 games against the Giants, and they'll be going up there for 3. McGee made 15 pitches to lock up the game. For Kenta Maeda, he had to be the player of the game for the Dodgers. Maeda, 6 2/3 innings, struck out 9. He was brilliant, but a flare single with a man at second base. The single by Descalso had scored Parra, and that was the only run of the game. So the Dodgers come up short. The Giants win a tough one 2-1, and now the Dodgers off on the road, San Francisco and Arizona. We'll be talking to you when they come home with Milwaukee. Till then, we wish you all a very pleasant good evening, everybody.